All right, today we are diving into something, well, something pretty wild. It's a new framework for looking at the universe called the Ouroboros quantum theory. And it suggests that the biggest paradoxes in physics, they aren't actually problems we need to solve. They might just be the very engine that makes reality tick. Let's get into it.
You know, for about a century now, physicists have been wrestling with this fundamental question. Is the universe a smooth, continuous movie where one frame flows perfectly into the next, according to some predictable script? Or is it more like a bunch of random, separate snapshots that only pop into existence when we actually look at them?
And this right here perfectly shows the split personality of quantum mechanics. On one hand, you have the Schrödinger equation, which describes reality as this beautiful, predictable flow of possibilities. Everything is smooth. But then, the instant we make a measurement, the moment we look, bam! Reality makes a totally random jump. Physicists call it wave function collapse, where it just snaps into one single, definite state. Now, this clash between the smooth flow and the random jump isn't just some weird little quirk. It's got a name. It's called the measurement problem. And honestly, it is one of the biggest, deepest, most profound unsolved mysteries in all of science.
This is where the Ouroboros quantum theory, or OQT, comes in with a really bold idea. What if this conflict isn't a mistake in our math? What if this tension, this paradox, is actually the whole point? What if it's the engine that drives the cosmos forward? To get our heads around this, the theory uses a really powerful, really ancient symbol, the Ouroboros. You know, the serpent eating its own tail. It's the perfect metaphor for a system that is totally self-contained, a perfect loop, with no beginning and no end. And that's the #1 rule of this theory. Reality is the whole, one single closed system. Inside this loop, nothing can ever be truly created or destroyed. It just changes form. And crucially, all information is preserved forever. Okay, so for this self-contained loop to actually work, OQT says reality has to have two natures that are always competing, but are also perfectly complementary. It's the tension between these two that generates, well, everything. First up, we have this static nature. You can think of this as the universe's eternal blueprint, the unchanging rulebook. This is that smooth, predictable, deterministic side of things we talked about, the part governed by the Schrödinger equation. It keeps the whole system mathematically consistent. And pushing against that, you have the dynamic nature. This is the universe in constant flux. It's the messy, chaotic, unpredictable churn of existence. This is that random jump, the collapse, that gives us the single, concrete reality we actually get to experience from moment to moment.
And this table just lays it out so clearly. You can see how these big philosophical ideas in OQT map directly onto real-world physics. The static, orderly nature, that's the unbroken evolution of the wave function. The dynamic, chaotic nature, that's the measurement collapse. The idea that the whole system is unified, we see that in quantum entanglement. And the paradox that fuels the whole thing, well, that's the measurement problem itself. Okay, so that's the framework. It sounds cool, but what does it actually do? Well, let's see how this idea of two natures actually gives us some pretty elegant solutions to some of the biggest head-scratchers in physics. So let's start with that measurement problem. OQT tackles it by embracing an idea called the many worlds interpretation. The idea is, when you make a measurement, the universe doesn't just randomly pick one result. No. Instead, it branches. Every single possibility becomes real, each in its own parallel universe. So that collapse we experience, that's just our consciousness, our perspective, ending up in one of those branches. And just like that, no information is ever lost, which perfectly follows the main rule of the whole. But this same way of thinking, that conflict isn't a mistake, it's a feature, can be scaled up to an even bigger problem. What happens when our two greatest theories of the universe, quantum mechanics and general relativity, go head-to-head? And that brings us to the black hole information paradox. On one side, you have quantum mechanics, which says without a doubt that information can never be destroyed. It's a core law of the universe. But on the other side, Einstein's general relativity predicts that anything that falls into a black hole is just gone. Its information is completely wiped from existence. These two master theories are in total contradiction. For most physicists, this is a 5-alarm fire, but in the Ouroboros theory, this isn't a crisis. It's exactly what the system is designed for. It's creative tension. It's the same dynamic we saw with measurement, just blown up to a cosmic scale. This friction is what forces science to evolve, to push past its limits and discover a new,
deeper theory of quantum gravity. It's not a bug, it's the fuel. So, where does all this leave us? After all this looping and tension and paradox, what's the ultimate truth this theory points to about our reality? It all leads to one pretty profound conclusion: universal deterministic unity, UDU. That's the endgame of the Ouroboros framework, the logical conclusion of a reality that contains itself. So what on earth does that mean? Well, it suggests the entire universe, the whole, is really just a single, unified wave function evolving according to a fixed set of rules. Every single possibility gets to play out across its infinite branches. So our experience of randomness, of paradox, even of feeling separate from everything else, it's all just a built-in, necessary feature of this one, all-encompassing reality. You know, there's a quote from the source material that just sums this up so beautifully. It says, reality is a navigable spiral perpetually cycling from established order through chaotic change and back into a refined, higher form of universal coherence. It's not a line, it's a loop, a spiral. And that leaves us with one heck of a question to chew on. If this theory is on the right track and every possible version of reality is playing out, equally real in some other branch of the universe, what does that say about the importance of the one you happen to be in right now?